Coming live from the Tivoli Met Radio studio here on Auraria campus, this is All Sports with Gerardo. Thank you for listening to All Sports through Met Radio on mymetmedia.com, live every Thursday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. This is your host Gerardo, and all I talk is sports. On the show today, I'm going to talk about breaking news, NFL football, Major League Baseball, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, and college basketball. So before I start the show, I hope you all had a great week. To start off, at the middle every month, I post a video or talk about one stadium I have went to, so stay tuned for future videos from stadiums across the US. For the month of January, I posted a video where I talked about Chase Field and my experience there. You can go watch that video on YouTube. You can also view videos from the past and subscribe to my YouTube page at All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to breaking news. Tim Howard announced he is going to retire at the end of the 2019 MLS season with the Colorado Rapids. Moving on now to Major League Baseball. Mariano Rivera, Roy Halladay, Edgar Martinez, and Mike Mussina are headed to Cooperstown, and this is the class inducted into the 2019 Baseball Hall of Fame. Mariano Rivera is the first player anonymously elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame and to have 100% of the votes. So for the class of 2019, it was a great class, even for the runner-ups as well. The ones that didn't get elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame this year, they had a lot of votes as well, so hopefully next year or down the road they can get into the Hall of Fame. But there were definitely some players that were first ballot Hall of Famers, no questions about it. Looking at the 2020 ballot, it definitely has some big name players, and they're definitely going to be some first ballot Hall of Famers next year as well. So congrats to the 2019 Baseball Hall of Fame class, and you definitely deserve to be in Cooperstown. Ichiro is returning back to the Mariners on a minor league deal. Sonny Gray was traded from the Yankees to the Reds, and he signed a 3-year extension with the Reds. AJ Pollock and the Dodgers have agreed to a 5-year contract. Nick Markakis and the Braves have agreed to a 1-year contract. Drew Pomeranz and the Giants have agreed to a 1-year contract. Danny Farshku is going to sign a minor league deal with the Yankees. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the NFL. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to NFL football. The Cardinals and wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald have agreed to a 1-year contract. This will be Larry Fitzgerald's 16th season in the NFL. The Ravens and head coach John Harbaugh have agreed to a contract extension. The Seahawks are going to sign former Broncos quarterback Paxton Lynch. The Chiefs have fired defensive coordinator Bob Sutton. The Cowboys are parting ways with offensive coordinator Scott Linehan. The NFL announced the matchups for the 5 international games during the 2019 season. So in the 2019 international games, this includes the Chiefs versus the Chargers in Mexico City. So the NFL is going to try to go back to Mexico City in 2019 and play another NFL game at Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. If you look back at the 2018 season, the Chiefs were supposed to go against the Rams at Estadio Azteca, but the game got moved to Los Angeles due to the field conditions at the stadium in Mexico City. So the NFL is going to give Mexico City another chance at hosting another NFL game. The Panthers versus the Buccaneers in London. The Bears versus the Raiders in London. The Bengals versus the Rams in London. And the Texans versus the Jaguars in London. So that's the other 4 international games. They're going to be played in London, and for the last few years, the Jaguars have played one of their home games in London as well, so that's going to be an ongoing trend in 2019. Right now, I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the rest of the NFL. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to NFL football. Right now I'm going to give you the final scores from championship weekend. Both the AFC and NFC championship games went into overtime, and this is the first time in NFL history. If you got to watch both games or one of the games, both games were great. They were definitely worth watching. They both came down to the last play of the game in overtime, and they both came down to the wire, so they're definitely both exciting games. In the AFC Championship game, it was a back and forth game between Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, but it landed up being a really great game. And in the NFC Championship game, that was another great game as well. This game was going back and forth, and the Rams were able to go back to New Orleans to the Superdome for a second time this season. And the first time they lost to the Saints, but now because it was the playoffs, they wanted to beat the Saints since they lost there the first time, and they landed up beating the Saints this time around in the playoffs. In the AFC Championship game, the Patriots beat the Chiefs 37-31 in overtime at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. For the Patriots, Tom Brady had 348 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Sonny Mitchell had 113 yards on 29 carries for 2 touchdowns. Julian Edelman had 96 yards on 7 catches. Rob Gronkowski had 79 yards on 6 catches. Philip Dorsett had 1 touchdown. Kyle Van Noy had 2 sacks. And Trey Flowers had 1 sack. For the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes had 295 yards and 3 touchdowns. Damian Williams had 66 yards on 5 catches for 2 touchdowns. Sammy Watkins had 114 yards on 4 catches. Tyreek Hill had 42 yards. Travis Kelce had 1 touchdown. Daniel Sorensen had 1 interception. And Reggie Ragland had 1 interception. So that's the highlights from the AFC Championship game. In the AFC Championship game, it was a great game. The Chiefs landed up having the first seed in the AFC with home field advantage throughout the playoffs, so the Patriots landed up having to come on the road to play in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs. It was a great game. It's unfortunate how the season ended for the Chiefs. Many people were expecting the Chiefs to make it to the Super Bowl and possibly win the Super Bowl. They came really close to that. This is not the end of the road for the Chiefs. They got a young quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes had a great season with the Chiefs. He threw for 50 touchdowns, and he just had some really great numbers. He's also a runner-up for NFL MVP, so despite the way the season ended for the Chiefs, hopefully Patrick Mahomes wins the MVP. He definitely would deserve it, and he definitely has a lot to show, especially the numbers that he had this season. The Chiefs is also a young, talented team, so they have a lot of potential going into the future, and they're definitely going to get back to this game and possibly get back to the big game as well. So they got many years ahead of them, and this is only the beginning of Patrick Mahomes. The Patriots, they've been a great team for the last 2 decades. You can never underestimate Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, whether they're at Gillette Stadium or they have to go on the road. The Patriots are a really great team throughout the regular season. They're one of the best teams in the playoffs. They're very hard to beat, especially if you're playing them up at their stadium, at Gillette Stadium. If they go on the road, they're a little bit more beatable, but still they're going to give you their best football and still be a challenge to your team. For the last 8 years, Tom Brady and the Patriots have made it to the AFC Championship game. They've won many of these games, especially when they've hosted the game. Now the only team they've lost to is when they've had to go on the road and play the Broncos twice. That's when the Broncos went to Super Bowl 48 and when they went to Super Bowl 50 and won the Super Bowl. So that's really the only championship games they have lost. It looked like this was going to be another one that they were going to lose, but they landed up playing great football towards the end of the game and coming back and winning this game. So you can never underestimate the Patriots. You can go back to Super Bowl 51 when they were down 28-3 at halftime against the Falcons, and you've seen how they came back. So this is one team that can come back and win games. So they're definitely a great team. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are one of the best in the NFL. So Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are definitely going to be Hall of Famers once they retire from the NFL. So congrats to the Patriots on winning the AFC and playing in Super Bowl 53. In the NFC Championship game, the Rams beat the Saints 26-23 in overtime at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. For the Rams, Jared Goff had 297 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. C.J. Anderson had 44 yards on 16 carries. Todd Gurley had 1 touchdown. Brandon Cooks had 107 yards on 7 catches. Josh Reynolds had 74 yards on 4 catches. Gerald Everett had 50 yards. Tyler Higbee had 1 touchdown. John Johnson had 1 interception. And Ndamukong Suh had a 1.5 sack. For the Saints, Drew Brees had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Alvin Kamara had 96 yards on 11 catches. Michael Thomas had 36 yards. Garrett Griffin had 1 touchdown. Taysom Hill had 1 touchdown. Demario Davis had 1 interception. And Cameron Jordan had 1 sack. So that's the highlights from the NFC Championship game. At the end of the NFC Championship game in overtime, a lot of the Saints fans and people around the NFL are saying that the Saints got robbed and that they should have been in Super Bowl 53 because the Saints had the ball and they were trying to score a touchdown in overtime. Drew Brees threw the ball and it looked like the Rams defender did a pass interference. And if you look at the play, it really does look like a pass interference, which the officials didn't call. So a lot of people believe that that play determined the NFC Championship game and why the Saints are not in Super Bowl 53. So the Rams landed up winning the NFC Championship game. For the Saints, Drew Brees had another great season. Throughout the season, he broke many records. He got into the 500 touchdown club. He passed many great quarterbacks. Right now, only Peyton Manning's in front of Drew Brees with 539 career touchdowns. Throughout the season, he passed Brett Favre and Tom Brady. Tom Brady also joined the 500 touchdown club as well this season. He also broke the passing yards record with having over 70,000 passing yards. He also passed Peyton Manning in that record. He also became the 3rd quarterback to beat all 32 teams. Only 2 other quarterbacks have done that, which includes Peyton Manning. So Drew Brees has also made it into an elite club with being able to break all those records and get into the 500 touchdown club, have over 70,000 passing yards, to have as many touchdowns as he has passing yards. So Drew Brees throughout this season just kept adding on to his resume. He had a very great season. Looking at the Saints, they could have got to the Super Bowl this year or last year. They would have had a really great chance this year. Out of all the teams that made it into the playoffs, I really expected the Saints to be in Super Bowl 53 and to come out of the NFC. But I know that the Rams also had a great season as well. They also had one of the best defenses as well. So even though the season ended up the way it did for the Saints, I just want to say congrats to the Saints for having a great season. Congrats to Drew Brees on having another great season as well. Drew Brees is also another runner-up for NFL MVP. He has a very strong case since he broke a lot of these records. So I believe the NFL MVP is going to come down to Patrick Mahomes or Drew Brees. So whichever one wins, they definitely deserve to win MVP in the NFL. So if Drew Brees decides to return for 2019, hopefully he has another great season. I would like to see Drew Brees win another Super Bowl as well. But whenever Drew Brees decides to retire, he's definitely going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL as well. For the Rams, they ended up beating the Saints in the NFC Championship game. They are moving on to Super Bowl 53. It's going to be the Patriots against the Rams in Super Bowl 53. Throughout the season, the Rams had a very great season. They were one of the best teams in the NFL. They started the first half of the season undefeated. They're a very hard team to beat. They had one of the best defenses. Despite their injuries on the offense, but especially on the defensive side when they were missing a few of their key players for a few weeks, the Rams played some of the best defense. With the two cornerbacks that they have, Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib, Aaron Donald had another great season. I believe Aaron Donald's going to be the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He just had a great season overall and the plays that he can make. So the Rams are definitely a great team. They've been one of the best teams in the NFL this season, so they definitely deserve to be in Super Bowl 53. It's definitely going to be another great Super Bowl. As always, for the last few years, we've seen the Patriots in the Super Bowl year after year. There's a reason why the Patriots are in the Super Bowl. They're one of the best teams in the NFL, and they're definitely one of the best teams to ever play, especially what they've been able to do these last 2 decades with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, winning 5 Super Bowls, appearing in 13 AFC Championship games. The amount of times they won the AFC East, got into the playoffs, all the records they broke. They appeared in many Super Bowls. So these last few years that the Patriots have been in the Super Bowl, they've won some, they've lost some, but they definitely want to win Super Bowl 53. They landed up winning Super Bowl 51 after having that big comeback after being down 28-3 at halftime. A lot of people didn't expect the Patriots to come back and win the Super Bowl, but they did. They lost to the Eagles last year in Super Bowl 52. So the Patriots won Super Bowl 51. They lost Super Bowl 52. They're definitely looking at trying to win Super Bowl 53. So it's going to be another great Super Bowl. The Patriots and the Rams have met in the Super Bowl before. It was back when Tom Brady was a younger quarterback. The Patriots were a younger team, and Kurt Warner and the, at the time, St. Louis Rams were going against each other. That was a great Super Bowl, so hopefully this time around the Patriots-Rams will be another great Super Bowl. If you pay attention to sports, the 2018 World Series was between the Boston Red Sox and the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Super Bowl 53 is going to be between the New England Patriots and the Los Angeles Rams. So both Boston and Los Angeles are going to go up against each other in the Super Bowl like they did in the World Series, so it should definitely be a great game. The Patriots will go against the Rams in Super Bowl 53 on February 3rd in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's definitely another Super Bowl you have to tune into and watch. The last few Super Bowls have definitely been great, so keep an eye out for Super Bowl 53. Also, the NFL Pro Bowl is this Sunday. These last few years, after the Pro Bowl moved from Hawaii, it moved to Florida. Now it's going to be in Orlando, Florida. So these last few years, now that the Pro Bowl's in Orlando, they've definitely been trying to change the Pro Bowl so it can get a bigger crowd, because if you look at the All-Star games in baseball, basketball, and in hockey, they get sold out and they have a big crowd. But if you look at the Pro Bowl in the NFL, when you tune into the game and you're watching the game, especially when it was in Hawaii, the stadium would only be half full and they wouldn't have that many people. So now that they moved it to Orlando, they're hoping that they can get a bigger crowd, have more people, and get a sold-out stadium for the Pro Bowl. Last year, the Pro Bowl had a decent crowd, so hopefully the Pro Bowl gets another big crowd this year. They've been also adding a lot of other festivities and activities to make Pro Bowl week more interesting, and so more people would tune into the Pro Bowl. Because if you look at baseball, basketball, and hockey, they do other contests with the All-Stars before the big games, so the NFL decided to add some other contests to the Pro Bowl. So definitely tune into the contest leading up to the Pro Bowl, and this should be another great Pro Bowl between the AFC and the NFC. There's definitely talented players in both conferences as well. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the NBA and NHL. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to NBA basketball. After Victor Oladipo had to come out of the Pacers-Raptors game with an injury on Wednesday, he had an MRI on Thursday, and it confirmed he ruptured his quad tendon in his right knee, and he will be out for the rest of the season after having season-ending surgery. This is a huge loss to the Pacers. The Pacers were one of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference, and after losing their big-name player, the Pacers are likely going to not win as many games, and they're going to fall down in the Eastern Conference standings. So we're going to have to wait and see how the Pacers play for the rest of the season. DeMarcus Cousins made his season debut with the Warriors last Friday against the Clippers. It took almost a year for DeMarcus Cousins to recover from his torn Achilles injury he suffered last January against the Rockets when he was on the Pelicans. So for the Warriors, adding DeMarcus Cousins even makes their team better. And when the Warriors have their starting 5 out on the court, they're 5 All-Stars. There hasn't been a team in the past or a current team that has had all 5 All-Stars or 5 All-Stars play on the same team on the same court at the same time. So they got Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and now DeMarcus Cousins. Even before they had Kevin Durant and they acquired him during free agency from the Thunder, they had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, and they still won the finals. Adding Kevin Durant, now they've won the finals again in back-to-back seasons as well. And now adding DeMarcus Cousins, they should also win another finals as well. So the Warriors is a great team even before they acquired the 2 players that they have now. And the Warriors definitely look like they're on pace to going back to the NBA Finals again this season and winning another finals once again. The Rockets have agreed to trade Carmelo Anthony and cash to the Bulls. Lonzo Ball is out 4 to 6 weeks with an ankle sprain. Right now I'm going to give you the current NBA standings in the Eastern and Western Conference. So to start off in the Eastern Conference, at number 1 is the Milwaukee Bucks, and number 2 is the Toronto Raptors, and number 3 is the Indiana Pacers, and number 4 is the Philadelphia 76ers, and number 5 is the Boston Celtics, and number 6 is the Brooklyn Nets, and number 7 is the Charlotte Hornets, and at number 8 is the Miami Heat. So that's the current standings in the Eastern Conference. In the Western Conference, and number 1 is the Golden State Warriors, and number 2 is the Denver Nuggets, and number 3 is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and number 4 is the Portland Trail Blazers, and number 5 is the Houston Rockets, and number 6 is the San Antonio Spurs, and number 7 is the Utah Jazz, and at number 8 is the Los Angeles Clippers. So that's the current standings in the Western Conference. That's also the current standings in the Eastern and Western Conference of the NBA right now. In the Week 15 NBA Power Rankings, the current top 10 NBA basketball teams are the Warriors, Bucks, Raptors, Nuggets, Pacers, 76ers, Rockets, Celtics, Thunder, and Jazz. Moving on now to NHL hockey. The 2019 NHL All-Star festivities are this weekend in San Jose, so definitely tune in to the All-Star festivities this weekend and definitely the All-Star game on Saturday. Right now I'm going to give you the current NHL standings in the Eastern and Western Conference. In the NHL, the division standings go off the amount of goals the team scored, not by the wins or losses by the team. So to start off in the Eastern Conference, in the Metropolitan Division, right now the New York Islanders are leading this division at 63 points. And right behind them is Washington at 60 points and Columbus at 59 points. In the Atlantic Division, right now Tampa Bay is leading this division at 76 points. They have a big lead in this division, and Toronto's right behind them at 62 points. In the Western Conference, in the Central Division, right now Winnipeg and Nashville are tied for this division at 64 points, and Minnesota's right behind both of them at 55 points. And in the Pacific Division, right now Calgary's leading this division at 71 points, and San Jose is right behind them at 65 points. So that's the current NHL standings in the Eastern and Western Conference. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about college basketball and the end of the show. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to college basketball. In the Week 12 Men's College Basketball AP Top 10 poll, the current top 10 college basketball teams are Tennessee, Duke, Virginia, Gonzaga, Michigan, Michigan State, Nevada, Kentucky, Kansas, and Virginia Tech. Moving on now to end the show. What to watch for this week in sports. The NFL Pro Bowl is this Sunday. NBA basketball, the Nuggets, the 2019 NHL All-Star Weekend, college basketball. Moving on now, on the next show, I will talk about NFL football, Major League Baseball, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, and college basketball. I hope you all have a great weekend. Tune in to the next All Sports with Gerardo show next Thursday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. I want to say thank you to everybody that listens to All Sports through Met Radio here on mymetmedia.com. Subscribe or like my pages on social media at All Sports with Gerardo. Until next time, this is Gerardo.